Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be making another video on my channel. This time it's going to be the political compass test. Now I kind of alluded to this in the last video near the end, and I know a lot of people have some problems with it, mainly the fact that it's too simplified. So in the future I'm probably going to do an 8 values test. Okay, to get us started, I'm going to take the test, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each individual question. I'm going to kind of breeze through it, and the questions that I personally feel the strongest about, I will go into and explain in greater depth. Now this one here, controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I think it's just a basic, because a country can survive having unemployment that goes up, but having hyperinflation that devalues and debases the currency to the point where nobody can afford anything, even the ultra rich, is ultimately, you can't come back from that until you have a full monetary reset. So I'd rather have a period of a little bit high unemployment. I think it's just a basic that corporations require some level of regulation. Free market capitalism or a free market does not entail freedom of the people, but generally speaking, I agree with the general concept. Now, I think this is a perfect point of how my political spectrum analysis is kind of out of whack compared to the mainstream narrative. Because personally, I don't believe we have a free market in the West right now. I think it's more so just corporate socialism. At the end of the day, there is no competition, and when there's no actual genuine competition, you get none of the benefits of capitalism with all the downsides. It shouldn't always be illegal, but I think it should be restricted to an extent. Like past I think 20 weeks. I think it's 20 or 22 weeks where I think the baby starts to feel pain. At that point is when I believe that it should be illegal. Every person who is in authority should be questioned by everybody at all times. I mean, if at the end of the day, if your idea isn't sound, people should point that out. And if you can't point that out, then you are living in a dictatorship. You have to have a measured approach to life, and if you're just doing everything because everyone else is doing something, then you're just following the crowd at the end of the day. I think that's bullshit. I believe in a free market, but I think that culture is something that we have to ensure is maintained, right? You can't have your culture just disappear, because then you don't have a nation. This is one thing that I agree with generally, but I think it should also promote the ability to go into scientific fields if you feel that at a young age. Because me personally, I know this is kind of off the beaten path rant here, but I would have wanted to go into meteorology as a kid, and I still kind of do, but the problem is the job market sucks for meteorology, right? So I think, yes, schooling should equip the future to find jobs. That should be the primary focus, but there should also be the learning aspect of it for those who are more intellectually inclined. This is gonna be controversial to some people, but I think that you can look through cultures and peoples. I mean, a people is defined by its culture. Let's be real here. I mean, European culture has been brutal at times. Every culture has been brutal at times. But when you look in the modern context, and you look across the Middle East, you look across parts of Africa, you look across parts of even Southeast Asia, these brutalistic kinds of cultures and societies are all promoted by and maintained and upheld by the people that live there. So by that logic, I believe that there are both different peoples and different cultures, but I think that there are some that are more civilized than others, and they're more in line with a regular human rights baseline. I mean, you can look at the fact there's still cannibals in like Papua New Guinea, and yeah, no, I think there's some better cultures. That's just my opinion there. This is gonna be kind of controversial. I would have said disagree a long time ago, but it depends on the kind of immigrants and how strong your immigration system's checks and balances are. Because right now here in Canada, I'd say that it's failing miserably. Integration is not even a focus. I would say disagree, because you can integrate if you have the support and you are someone who's actually coming here to integrate to begin with. But if you're coming here just to keep your culture and just make ethnic ghettos and just speak your own language and not even give a fuck, that is not even possible with that sentiment. I strongly disagree with this, because a successful corporation could be doing anything. They could be a military industrial complex. So, I mean, take Lockheed Martin. They benefit off of having war. So by definition, if it benefited them financially to have a war between the United States and Canada where millions of people died, that would benefit them. But would that benefit the people of the United States and the people of Canada? No. Obviously, that's a kind of exaggerated example, but I mean, with this answer, technically speaking, it avoids the delay with arguments, but arguments are necessary in order to flesh out the details. I mean, if everything is just getting passed and nobody's looking into anything, nobody's verifying that it's going to work or it's going to do what it's pointless. You're basically just passing on the whim of whoever's in power, and that's not the way you should do things. I mean, even though I don't like the fact this is true, it is true. Ultimately, you need some structure and some order in society. Otherwise, you don't have a country. This one I'm kind of split 50-50 on because you kind of need both sides of it. You need the writer and the artist, but you also need the business person and the manufacturer. But I think the writer and the artist are the ones who come up with the idea to begin with. They're the visionaries behind the project. You can have a successful artist that just does things until people notice them, and then they're famous or whatever, and they make money from it. Or you can have them putting it out and nobody notices them. But if you're truly a good writer or truly a good artist, you will make traction even without a business person or someone manufacturing something behind the scenes for you. Like you can do things on your own. So I think I'm going to disagree there. It's kind of a 50-50 though. Honestly, I don't know. Astrology is kind of one of those things where I just don't know enough about it, and I don't really care to know enough about it. I mean, to each their own, I guess. By instill religious values, I mean, I'm thinking from a perspective of Christianity. I mean, a lot of it is pretty, I don't want to call it milquetoast, but it's just Western values for the most part. So I'm going to say yes, but not to a point of like theocracy. See, I agree with this, but I also think that a lot of these companies that operate, they target minors. For example, Pornhub has been pulling out of every single region that has age limits. Now, I understand the counter argument of who's storing all this information, this could be surveillance, whatever, but ultimately I think that children having access to that kind of stuff is a social detriment. I mean, you can see that. I would argue the internet has unlocked that for a lot of young children and even just into early teenagehood. And you see the effects in society right now. You see how young women and young men are acting. But you see that on a societal level, I think that is very, very, very destructive. So honestly, for the adult population, I would say it should be legal. But the problem is these companies don't really want it to be legal for the adult population if they can't also expose minors. So I think that because of that, I think that there's a more sinister plan going on. I think it has worse effects on society. So I'm going to say I disagree rather, that it should be legal. I think that it should be restricted until it can be proven that they're not targeting children, which I don't think is ever going to be possible. So I'm going to disagree with that. Okay, so let's see where the heck I fall on this compass here. I'm going to say probably somewhere in the lib right. Yep. I've always pretty much placed in the purple quadrant here, occasionally a little bit up into the authoritarian right and authoritarian left, and libertarian left, but 90 to 95% of it has been within like this box range right here. So I think that doesn't really surprise me a lot. You need some balance to achieve a proper, not only economy, but also society as a whole. You need balance in terms of protecting your culture, you need balance in terms of protecting your economy, but you also need freedom in those aspects. You need freedom in the culture. You need freedom in the economy. But if you go too far, you're gonna be out of whack a little bit, right? So I think that you need balance. Yeah, this is the certificate or whatnot, right? Hold on. Apparently, between I'm between Nicole Sturgeon and Angela Merkel. I think that this is kind of just a very biased test to begin with. For example, Donald Trump, I don't think he's all the way up here. I'd probably place him somewhere around, I'd argue probably somewhere around here. Keir Starmer is not there. For example, Joe Biden, I think he's more like over here in my opinion. Someone like Boris Johnson, is definitely more over here. Joseph Stalin is like closer to the center than fucking Joe Biden. That's bullshit. Generally speaking, politically, I align more with a sort of populist sentiment, whether it be left, right, but I think right populism is the way forward for this country, the way forward for this world right now, to get us out of this rut so that we can have a more libertarian society in the future, both economically and socially. I'm going to be looking at the 8 values test, and I'm probably going to post that relatively soon after this. I might even record it right after, to be honest, because I think that some nuance and whatnot is required for this, because this test and the way that everything is placed on this test is, I don't feel it's accurate. But deuces. I'll see y'all in the next video.